Scotland and Ireland have both parted ways with their head coaches after failing to qualify for the 2025 Women's Euros. So let's talk about it. It's crazy to say that we've just wrapped up the final 2024 international window. In some ways, it feels like we have seen a ton of international drama this year, obviously, with the Paris Olympics happening in the summer. But it also feels like we're just kind of like still dwelling on 2023 and the World Cup that happened that summer. But before you even know it, I mean, it's already at the end of the year and the international window has wrapped up. There's almost been no time to like think about that and think about the hangover of the international window, because we've jumped straight into club football. Champions League is underway very, very quickly. But over the last week, there's been some managerial changes that have happened because of what we saw in the international window. This international window included a ton of really exciting friendlies, some maybe underwhelming friendlies, but most importantly, there was a fair amount of qualifications happening and qualifiers happening that took place, including some of the Euros qualifiers for next year. The 2025 Euros happening in Switzerland. The draw for the group stages is going to take place on December 16, so almost like 48 hours away from the time of the recording. We'll chit chat about some of the teams that already qualified, but today's topic is going to be a little bit more about the teams that didn't qualify, of Scotland and Ireland, and a little bit of Wales, who did qualify for the first major tournament in their history. The women's team, I mean, huge performance against Ireland in their two-legged playoff. So we'll talk about Wales in just a moment, but Scotland and Ireland failed to qualify. Both have parted ways with their respective. It was Pedro Martinez Losa with Scotland and Eileen Gleeson with Ireland. Let's talk a little bit about Scotland, because I think for me this was the biggest disappointment, because we in some ways saw this coming, right? This has not been the most convincing era of the Scottish women's national team, which is very crazy and bizarre to say, because when you look at the players and when you look at the player pool of the Scottish women's national team, it's arguably one of the most exciting that we have seen in decades, right? When you just assess the team on paper, it's exciting. There's a really good mix between, veterans, but also the players that are almost at their peak of their career, and a good mix of talented young players. The Scottish Women's Premier League is hitting new heights. I don't think we saw the most out of the players that deserve to get a call-up, or those who did get a call-up who were performing really good in the league actually get the minutes that they deserved, which was a very frustrating thing to see. But, I mean, just look at the midfield of Caroline Weir, Erin Cuthbert, and Sam Kerr. I mean, that's creativity with Sam Kerr, and what an engine Erin Cuthbert is. And I mean, Caroline Weir, do I need to talk about how good Caroline Weir is? That's the sort of midfield that you're working with. And then you've got really, really exciting youngsters in there with the likes of Jenna Clark, Kirsty McLean, Lauren Davidson. I mean, it's a really good, fun, exciting squad. Just recently, Erin Cuthbert spoke in an interview saying that the team wanted to play a little bit more Scottish. She wanted to play more Scottish. Now, there's different ways that you can interpret what she means by playing more Scottish. But what Martinez wanted to do was play a possession-based football. And I think not only was that just not suitable for the team, it didn't get the most out of players. I think the fan base was uninspired and bored, and that was reflected in the attendance numbers, because when you compare their attendance numbers with what Wales and Ireland were hosting at home, I mean, it's not even comparable. And in Wales's playoff game at home, they had almost like 4,000 people in attendance. That is not even comparable to what we saw in Ireland and Wales. In some ways, that was exactly the state of the team. It was uninspiring, it was a little bit boring, I think, to watch. And it just felt like there was so much potential and talent being wasted game after game, because this was not the style of football that this team deserved to play. And on top of that, they just couldn't put good performances together in playoff moments, which for a team like Scotland, who needed to qualify for a major tournament, it's like, what's the point? If you're not unable to put good performances on the big stage, how are you going to qualify? Martinez was appointed as head coach of the Scottish women's national team in July of 2021. And I think the main goal and the main understanding of his appointment was, right, they need to qualify for the 2023 Women's World Cup. They qualified for the 2019 World Cup. Let's do it 2 times in a row. It was the up-and-coming of Erin Cuthbert, who was really, really young at the time. Caroline Weir, Martha Thomas, again, was considered a bit of a youngster back then. Still is. If you remember, they lost their final playoff game against Ireland, who qualified for their own 2023 Women's World Cup, first ever World Cup that they went to. Now, I think the understanding back then was, okay, we saw a little bit of an underwhelming Scotland. The main goal was to qualify for the World Cup. They didn't really do that, and I'm not sure if the fan base is really liking this sort of football. I think the main understanding and kind of like the general consensus in the air was like, okay, the Scottish Federation will part ways with Martinez. All of a sudden, the Scottish Federation offers him a 4-year contract extension in September of 2023, which is 14 months ago. And it's like, okay, that's a ridiculous amount of belief in somebody who just failed to qualify for the 2023 Women's World Cup and hasn't really had the best performances. Like, you're taking a really huge leap trusting that he will get you to what I think was the goal, Switzerland. Following that, it was a run of mixed results. Like, there was nothing too convincing. There was not one win that really stood out. I mean, they lost to the Netherlands twice, back-to-back. They drew with Belgium. They lost to England 6-0. It was a pretty heavy defeat. And the teams that they beat was, like, Slovakia and Israel and, like, Serbia. And even the Serbia win, which was in the Euros qualifiers, I don't think that was really their best performance, despite the fact that it was a home performance. They draw Finland, and it was such an uninspiring play of football that it was really, really disappointing. Like, I'm not Scottish, but I can't imagine what the Scottish fans felt when they were watching it. The players clearly look restricted. There's no creativity. There's no, like, lateral creativity. We're seeing very stagnant movement in the middle. It's just not getting the best out of the team. And again, when you look at the players and the quality and the potential and just so much oozing out of it. And so it's really disappointing to see where the Scottish FA has taken this team. I think they deserve better. I'm really, really hoping their appointment now is a good appointment. I hope they're putting good money into their appointment, because I think the next thing that the team could qualify for is the 2027 Women's World Cup, right? So this is like 2-3 years older Caroline Weir, 2-3 years older Sam Kerr, 2-3 years older Marta Thomas. It's a golden generation it just feels like it was really wasted now. Wales didn't qualify for the 2023 Women's World Cup. They fell short in the playoff against Switzerland, and it was like that was the main goal, and they weren't able to achieve it. After that, they have a pretty hard run of games, especially in the Nations League. They go 8 games without a win, lots of heavy defeats, 5-1 against Germany, 5-1 against Denmark. It wasn't so pretty. And so Wales started this year and they were like, crap, like it's January, like almost February. We're losing a lot of games. We're not doing really well, and we have a chance to qualify for the Euros come November. They took the brave decision of, parting ways with their head coach at the time, Gemma Grainer, who now is the head coach of the Norwegian women's national team, and they appointed Rian Wilkinson, the Canadian. I've spoken plenty about Rian and her various positions as a coach. She's worked with the English FA. She's worked with the Canadian Soccer Association. She obviously was the head coach of the Portland Thorns, has won the league there with them. Wilkinson is Canadian, but her heritage in the background is Welsh. And so they were able to get somebody who the fan base can connect with from that sort of level. She was a proven coach who was also a former player. And so the appointment that Wales went out and got, I think, was superb. And what I think Wilkinson did really well was she got the most out of the players. I think, and really all you need to look is the 2 playoff games against Ireland. Any team could have won in that game. Any team could have won on that night. It was tight, especially that first game. It was a draw. The second one was really nervy in Ireland. 2-1, Ireland come back with a really late goal. Like, it was nervy, and Ireland could have gotten a goal or 2 in that first half. What separated, I think, the two was who wanted it more. And I think that goes to how much the team has prepared, what is happening in the dressing room, and kind of the mindset of the team. The team looked quite defeated after that failure to qualify for the 2023 Women's World Cup. And they just seemed to struggle to get back on board and to get back into like actual normal rhythm. I think Wilkinson was able to get them back into that good rhythm, make them believe that they can go on and win a playoff game. They can go on and qualify for the Euros. It's brilliant to see Jess Fishlock finally qualify for a major tournament with Wales. Plenty of talent in that Welsh team, but it was just so much heart, and it was such good, solid mentality that you have to be proud of the players. You have to be very happy for them. But the Welsh Federation deserves some credit here. When you look at how different federations acted, and really don't look that far, just compare Scotland and Wales, they took the right decision. The Welsh Federation did what they needed to do. I think they got a lot of criticism of like, why are they doing this appointment in February? Qualifiers are not that far off. It paid off. Whereas with Scotland, it looked like they were just comfortable with giving Martinez another opportunity, and I think that was wrong. The players were so clearly let down. So who did they bring in? I'm really, really hoping the Scottish FA looks around and is like, right, if our main competitors, I think, of Wales are doing what they're doing and this is where we're at, we need to start putting serious money into head coach. We need to start putting serious decision folders and proper reconsideration of who we're hiring and who we're keeping and who we're giving a 4-year extension in a more precarious manner. But it's really, really frustrating to see where the team has gone. And so for Scottish fans out there, I was actually pretty upset to see them not qualify, but you also have to be very thrilled for Finland. They fought a very organized, well-planned game. It was like pitch perfect of how they wanted to play. They did exactly what they needed to do and they won the playoff game. So props to Finland. Like, it was actually quite impressive to see how just it was well planned, well executed, and they were just really extremely organized, which I think is a top performance that you have to give credit to. Let's talk a little bit about Ireland, who also parted ways with Eileen Gleeson, who took over as an interim head coach following the 2023 Women's World Cup, and then they appointed her as head coach shortly after. I don't think she did a terrible job with the Irish women's national team, but I do think it was a mistake to appoint an interim head coach with the momentum that the Irish women's national team was on. Their previous head coach, who I'm sure you're very familiar with, Vera Pauw, left on not very good terms. It was very rocky towards the end of her contract, and there was a clear fall off between her and the locker room and the players. And so when she was let go, Gleeson was given the job, and it was a mistake to do so given the momentum that the Irish women's national team was on. They just qualified for the World Cup. They didn't necessarily have a terrible World Cup, though they had a pretty good run of games, even though they were knocked out in the group stages. And it was like, right, we do know, we're pretty aware that the next goal for this team is to go on and qualify for the Euros. I don't think Gleeson did a very terrible job, because I'll give them the benefit of the doubt here in terms of they were grouped in the group of death when it came to the Nation Leagues. They were in League A, which meant that they were going to get a playoff opportunity for the Euros, which is great. But they really, really struggled against top opposition. They, first of all, lost to Wales at the start of the year. They lost to France, they lost to England, to Sweden again, and to England again. They had a really good fight against France, was able to beat them in July. But after that, it was Georgia and then the 2 Wales games. So I think when you're creeping into the year and you're like, I've got France and I've got England and I've got Sweden, and those are the teams that I'm supposed to be in the Nations League, that's a tough run of games. They go on a 6-game losing streak, 7 games unable to get a win, and you still stick with your head coach. It's like, right, you were supposed to make a better decision and of not putting in your interim head coach because the team is on a really good momentum. You know it's a tough run of games. You know you're probably not going to be able to beat the likes of Sweden and France and England, maybe win 1 or 2, which they did against France, but then they stuck with that head coach. And, this is not a knock on Gleeson. She probably could do really good, and I think she's going to stick with the FA even though she wasn't offered a new contract. But I'm not sure if that was the right decision to offer her a contract as an interim head coach. It almost felt like that was a lazy decision, right? They weren't bothered to go look for a proper new head coach, knowing that they had really tough opposition with the Nations League, and there was a really, really, really good chance to qualify for the Euros. And they just dropped the ball, and back to their fight with Wales. It wasn't that Wales was just that much better that they had to qualify. It was on the night. Wales wanted it more. They played better. And you know what? I think despite how much emotions Wales came in with, they contained themselves better. I think how Katie McKay played in that second leg was quite foolish. She was lucky not to be sent off in that first half. And that sort of behavior just isn't allowed when it's a very, very big game like this. There's qualifiers on the line. It's do or die. You're going into this game tied. It's all tied. And to see how their captain acted wasn't so great. And if that was the sort of mentality that Ireland was coming in with, that's not very encouraging. Like something my good friend talked about when he joined me last year to talk about Ireland, Phil O'Connor, brilliant individual if you want to look at coverage of the Irish men's national team. But he talked about the importance of the team wanting to balance out heart and grit and just like putting it all on the pitch and containing themselves of not making that the game. And it looked like Ireland, specifically I think Katie McCabe, made that the game, which is a mistake. Not to undermine what McCabe has done for the team. Like obviously she's their captain, she's been huge in their success, she's been tremendous in a lot of their wins and tremendous in the history that Ireland's putting together. But that game just was not a good representation of where Ireland wanted to go. And so was Gleeson, it wasn't a good run of games going into the qualifiers, and ultimately her tenure comes to an end with the fact that she's unable and she failed to qualify for the 2025 Euros. But for me, it all goes back to the fact that they appointed an interim head coach in a moment of time where somebody was supposed to come in and carry and build on that momentum, and they didn't do that. And so I guess the FA pay for a little bit of their crime there. I don't understand that Gleeson is going to continue to work with the FA. She has been working with the FA for quite some time. She was the head of development of women's and girls football, did a really, really great job at it. That position is not currently vacant. There's somebody in it, so I'm not sure if she returns to that job or she just remains as backroom staff. Like I'm not too sure what her position is. The federation hasn't really commented either. It was just that she was not offered as another contract as a head coach of the team. So I think what we're seeing is that teams like Ireland, Wales, and Scotland are very serious about the fact that if they're not qualifying, it's almost like Scotland is a little bit late to the party. They should be parting ways with their head coach. These are tournaments that they're all expected to fight for and qualify for. And I wish the Scottish FA had done something about it earlier, aka right after the Women's World Cup. For Ireland, again, I hope they're able to go and appoint a coach that gets along with the players. I think Gleeson was brilliant in how the players loved her. It was obviously, again, very rocky and patchy with how the team left off with Vera Pauw. And Gleeson won over the players. I think she got along just fine, it looked like. And they loved her and they wanted to play what she asked them to. And so I hope that the FA is able to get another individual that is able to get along with the players. There's a fair amount of head coaches that are on the market right now. It seems also like there's a lot of vacant head coach jobs, specifically on the international stage. I mean, you're talking about Canada, now Ireland and Scotland. So we'll see what is going to happen. What's the shuffle that's going to take place? But the next opportunity that these teams are going to look to hope for and qualify for is the 2027 Women's World Cup, which is in Brazil, in case you missed it. So let me know your thoughts on these decisions. What were your opinions and thoughts of Ireland not qualifying, Scotland falling short once again, as well as Wales making some history and making that final spot. Like I said, the draw is to take place very, very soon on December 16. As the hosts, Switzerland, they slot into Group A as they'll be opening the tournament. In Pot 4 is where we have Wales, which then you have the rest of the nations that had to go through the playoff stages of Finland, Poland, and Portugal. So Wales is not going to draw any of these teams in the groups, but they might very much meet later on down the road. It's going to be very exciting. I'm excited to see this draw. I hope there's no group of deaths. I hope it's a well-balanced set of groups, but you never know with these draws. And hopefully Wales can maybe make it out of the group stages. It'll be fun. It'll be really, really fun to see what Pot 4 has for us. But it's going to be also a very fun Euros, and I'm very, very excited for next summer. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions. I'd love to hear them. Apologies, I sound the way that I do. This is the best I've sounded in the past week and a half, which has been very frustrating because I've wanted to record a few episodes across that time and just simply did not have the voice for that. So I apologize, and hopefully plenty more episodes coming now your way. The holidays are upon us. It's good seasons. I hope everybody's enjoying the good holiday season and staying warm in what seems to be a very chilly winter, at least here in Canada. As always, to stay updated and to continue enjoying the beautiful game, make sure you subscribe to me on YouTube and follow me on Twitter, and I will see you later.